think of the context, right? We've just had this tremendous NFL playoff season going on, and we had the college football playoff going on. And what are the two words that I heard over and over again? Talent evaluation, right? If you're trying to get a new coach or a new defensive coordinator, or now the draft is coming up, who should you hire, right? Or who should you draft? So the talent in your football team makes a huge difference. And if you look at the playoffs, most of them have top five defenses. So obviously that's a function of who they drafted. To bring it back into trading terms, I always say that what you trade is more important than how you trade, which is, of course, I'm saying that sort of in a tongue in cheek, because obviously what you trade interacts with how you trade. But just to highlight the talent evaluation angle, you can say that what you trade is more important than how you trade.
Yeah.
So then the question is, from a technical analysis point of view, what is the technical analysis equivalent of talent evaluation? And my answer to that is the CHATS indicator. So if you think of, so let me just show you some slides, and then maybe that'll make more sense in terms of what I'm talking about. Okay. So we're talking about talent evaluation. So I said, think of your favorite sports team, and then how you trade is more important, etc. So CHATS is really a talent evaluation tool. You want to find things that are trending, or conversely, that are trending up or trending down. And you can take a counter trend view for something that's trending down strongly, like Netflix. So you still need some measure of absolute trend strength. Now, I want to make a distinction between absolute trend strength and relative trend strength. So relative trend strength will be, say, versus an index, like the QQQ or the S&P 500. And the absolute trend strength is all by itself. Like, if we just looked at the chart, tell me, is it trending higher or lower? That kind of question.
Yep.
Let's skip this. Okay, let's go here. So the CHATS analysis, let's just make this a little easier to see. The CHATS analysis essentially is a trend strength indicator, and the scale is plus 100 to minus 100. So we're just going to look at everything above plus 70 or below minus 70, and everything between plus 70 and minus 70 is noise. So I want to walk you through a few slides. It'll look complicated, but it'll make sense when you just hear me out. So first of all, to answer your question directly, we can create a scan. And here I have a scan that says the weekly CHATS indicator is greater than 90 and the daily CHATS indicator is greater than 70. So now we've combined two different time periods. And what does that answer look like? And I only looked at the NASDAQ 100 index just to make it manageable, so you don't have a list of that goes off your screen, basically.
Yeah.
So if you look at, I've just summarized the screen here. But what do you see on here? You see MU, you see WDC, you see Monster, which had an update today. You see things like Google or ADI, or this is unusual MAR, which is Marriott. So the point I'm trying to make is that you can use this to screen out, you have literally thousands and thousands of choices. How do you, make it manageable, and how do you focus in on a particular stock, and then you can do your particular preferred form of analysis. So again, we're just saying this is a talent evaluation tool, just a way to screen out things. And we if I just go back to the previous slide, you can have multiple, you can have just one time period, give me the daily greater than 90, or you can have multiple time periods. You can use daily chart and 4-hour chart. So a lot of flexibility in TrendSpider in how you construct the scan. And once you do the scan, you get a list, and then now you can focus on the list and do more research using the AI, sidekick and so forth.
Yeah.
And let's just dive in for a second in terms of what is CHATS about. Like, what does it mean? And just to give you some insight, the way I've taken a lot of different indicators and I've combined them, and I've done it in such a way that roughly 30% of the weight is assigned to momentum and roughly 70% to trend persistence. So the big problem we have obviously is that you want to buy or sell and then cover a bit later. So there's obviously some period you're going to hold, and you want the object to trend in that period, go higher or lower as the case may be. So just in terms of the design process, there's a little bit more weight on trend persistence than momentum. So it's a combination of many different things. And then this chart will, make your eye roll, but these are the many different indicators that are in the calculation. So you're looking in all these different lines and you're saying, well, how am I ever going to evaluate all these many different things? And the short answer is that we can combine them into a single indicator. So essentially what CHATS does for you is it looks at a lot of different momentum and trend strength indicators and combine them into a single number on an easy to use scale. So that's the whole idea. It's multiple indicators reduced to one indicator. So you just have to get used to sort of using it as a scanning tool. And then once you have the scan and you have a list, then you can use some of my other indicators to look for breakouts, trailing stops, and so on. So it's really a good starting point for your analysis. And I love the scanning feature of TrendSpider. It's really, really powerful. So either you can do it, of course, you can use AI for it, the sidekick, but that has some limitations. Of course, this also has some limitations, but it just gives you a talent evaluation tool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So to break it down for everybody, from what I have seen it, basically CHATS, stuff like relative performance, relative strength is something that you can use for an overall filter to find a basket of stocks that are actually worth trading, right? Like, as you said, like talents, like the best talent possible. And then from there, you can actually use indicators on your chart to help determine, entries and when to exit and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. So, if you think about, going back to the football analogy, right? How much, you have a quarterback or you have a linebacker or you have a secondary player or you have an assistant coach. How much do you pay them? So that's like your risk allocation to a particular position. And then how do you trade it? Like, meaning you may have your favorite indicator to get in, your favorite indicator to get out. You can use those. There's absolutely no problem. I have a bunch of tools you can use to use that. They'll augment whatever tools you have, but you still need a starting point. And what I'm trying to say is that the CHATS rules or the CHATS indicator, which is a combination of many other indicators, gives you a consistent framework to scan the markets because there's no shortage of opportunities. It's strictly a matter of what are what interests you, what are you going to willing to trade, what kind of risk you're willing to take, what's your trade sizing, what's your entry, what's your exit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, there's tons of other things to consider as well. Like you said, like position sizing is huge. And then just in general, like if you use fundamentals, like I don't know if you use like any sort of fundamental analysis or anything like that, but you can build out into the picture. You can use Sidekick AI to help you, automatically determine, if a company is matching your criteria, whether it be like, growing revenue, growing EPS, or low valuation metrics, which isn't really the best for trend following, like price to earnings ratio and stuff. But there's so many different ways to do it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like using, something like the CHATS indicator, like even like your Ishan indicator as a filter, just makes it so much easier to figure out what you should be trading instead of wasting your time, scanning through or looking through like thousands of stocks. Really, you can narrow it down a lot.
Right. And my sort of other suggestion I have is rather than randomizing the process, i.e., I heard it from my friend or read it on some website, or I heard this guy on TV. You can use the same process over and over again by saying, okay, I'm going to use I'll scan once a week with the CHATS indicator. That's not a huge time commitment. The scanning process is really, really fast, a few seconds, and it gives you a consistent way to okay, I'm only focused on these 10 stocks or these 20 stocks.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Just to go back to my slides for a second, I've put currency trading here, and I've looked at the 20-day rate of change, and the yellow line or the orange line is the 20-day rate of change, and the blue line is the CHATS indicator. And you can see that by and large, there's pretty good correlation. When there's high returns, the CHATS is high. When there's low negative returns, the CHATS is low. And the next slide kind of shows the lasers out. It just looks at the left-hand side as the 20-day rate of change, and the x-axis is the different values of CHATS. And you see that in the middle, it's noisy, but there's a definite trend. Like when you get strong negative performance, you get low values of CHATS. When you get strong positive performance, you get high values of CHATS. So there's a reason why all these things sort of work in a certain way. And then there's a bunch of noise in the middle because, again, in terms of indicator design, you have to have some smoothing, etc. And the market can move faster than what your indicator is moving. So that's why you get this noise in the middle, which we don't really care about. We just want to focus at very high values of chats, or very low values of chats. And essentially, this is telling you, if I go to the next slide, you see that when you get very low values of chats, you don't get positive returns. Conversely, when you get very high value of chats, you don't get negative returns, or the probability of negative returns is low. So what you want from a trend following point of view is you want these dots, which are really strong outliers. The trend starts and then keeps going. And ultimately, not every 20-day high results in a 100-day high or a great new trend, but every great new trend will have a series of 20-day highs. So in the markets are random, there's some risk that the trend will not follow through and all that. But we just need a tool. We need a way to screen things out, and the chats is a very nice way to do it. And this is just all the stocks in the Dow Jones index. I've got about 12,000 data points. I've only looked at values of chats above 70, and over a 6.5 year period, only out of say 50,000 data or 48,000 data points, only about 25% were over 70, and of that, only 0.7% gave you negative sort of 20-day performance versus the chat. So in general, chats is correlated with strong performance, and of course this smears it out. But we want the trend to continue, and that information is not on this chart because it's just a scatter plot. But the big picture is that high values of chats correspond to strong positive performance. Negative values of chat correspond with low or negative 20-day returns, and everything in between we'll ignore. So it's just a good screening tool.